Hello, I'm Tylah Tully. Titanium and vanadium are powerhouse metals driving innovation across different industries, from aerospace engineering to life-saving medical implants and ultra-strong steel alloys. Their unique properties like exceptional strength-to-weight ratio, corrosion resistance and biocompatibility make them indispensable. To tell us more about these metals and their uses is Terra Metals CEO and Managing Director Thomas Line. Thomas, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Tyler. Nice to be here.
So let's start with titanium. What are its uses and importance across various applications?
Yeah, titanium actually has quite a wide range of uses, and many people wouldn't be aware that titanium are used in everyday products that they will be using all the time. A lot of the titanium is used in metal applications, but actually much of it's also used in non-metallic type applications like coatings and pigments in plastics and other products. And the pigment market actually accounts for around 80 or 90% of the titanium market. So it is the majority share of the market. But it has, for its use in metallic applications, it has a very high strength to weight ratio. So it's used in specialty steels, in defense and aerospace applications. And then in the pigment side of things, it really assists through its anti-corrosive properties and protecting the products that those coatings are covering.
And what can you share about vanadium? What's it used for?
It's funny because titanium and vanadium go very well together in terms of their strength properties and their ability to strengthen steels and specialty steels. Vanadium is also used in aerospace and defense for high-strength specialty steel applications. But it's also used in storage of renewable energy, and vanadium redox flow batteries is a key part of that equation, which could represent and likely will represent a large growth market for the vanadium market. Vanadium redox flow batteries are, you could say they're an emerging technology, but they've been around for a very long time, and their use is increasing significantly. And there's much expectation that they will be adopted as more of a mainstream way in which you can store renewable energy. It is one of the best and most efficient ways to store renewable energy. And vanadium redox flow batteries, there aren't really many other competitors. They certainly perform better than lithium-ion batteries and other traditional batteries for those purposes. And in fact, in South Australia at the moment, there is one of the initial large vanadium redox flow storage battery plants that has been commissioned, which was co-funded by the federal government on quite a large scale.
I think you've just touched on it there, but what are some of the market opportunities for these products and what price do they fetch with explorers and developers?
Yeah, so the titanium industry is materially larger than the vanadium industry. So it's a much bigger market. It's $25+ billion market. The vanadium market is substantially smaller than that. But I suppose because titanium use is already very mainstream, there is a reduction in supply expected, and the grade of deposits globally is reducing. Titanium, I suppose, has greater range of products and values that can be produced from your raw concentrate from your deposit compared to vanadium. And they include the baseline product, I suppose, is a raw concentrate of either ilmenite or rutile. In some cases, it can be a mineral called anatase. The difference between those products is that I suppose ilmenite is far more common and accounts for probably 90% of global reserves and global production. It does attract a lower price than rutile and anatase because it has a lower titanium or TiO2 content, and it requires processing to get it up into that higher TiO2 content area by removing the iron from or leaching the iron out of the mineral. Iron titanium mineral, so it's iron oxide plus titanium, Fe2TiO3, whereas rutile and anatase are TiO2, essentially pure titanium dioxide. So whilst ilmenite does require further processing, it is certainly the far bigger part of the market and the most important source of titanium globally. Now, a raw titanium ilmenite concentrate, typically benchmark is around 46% TiO2, which is close to pure ilmenite, depending on the deposit. And that attracts a price of around $300 per ton. And then when you get into the rutile level, that's another mineral concentrate. It attracts close to $3,000 per ton for a rutile concentrate or anatase concentrate. Now, there's also a few other products. So the raw ilmenite concentrate can be used to make synthetic rutile. In fact, that's one of the most common things it is that the ilmenite is used for, and that attracts a slightly lower price than a natural rutile concentrate of around $2,000 per ton. The raw ilmenite concentrate is also used to produce another product, which is called titanium dioxide pigment. That's a huge part of the market. And titanium dioxide pigment attracts around $3,000 per ton valuation. So when you have a really great source of raw ilmenite concentrate, you have optionality to produce these next stage products in the synthetic rutile and the pigment, which can give you a 6 to 12x uplift in the value of your titanium through comparably or relatively small infrastructure cost.
And is it a saturated space, or are there only a few key players?
It's really not a saturated space. So if we go into the titanium, there is a lot of room for new product to come into the market. And certainly because of the size of the market is a large market, it would be difficult for a single operation to impact pricing, which is one of the great things about the titanium market. It can absorb a lot of production. So there are a couple of key producing. China is the largest producer of titanium with the largest reserves. South Africa and Russia are also large producers, and then Australia is one of the largest producers and is probably the largest rutile producer.
And finally, in terms of grades, what should investors be looking out for?
Yeah, well, the grade really depends on how to assess the grade of a titanium deposit, for example, really depends on the mineral in which is being reported. Now, for example, a rutile mineral sand deposit may only have a grade of 1% or 2% rutile, but the processing is very simple and it's cheap processing, and the product is very high value, very high purity TiO2 product that can be produced from that. But when you're dealing with hard rock deposits, it is a little bit more complicated to assess what is an economic grade. The grade needs to be much higher, but it comes down to the metallurgical properties. So while a 20% TiO2 deposit may be acquired for a deposit which has not great metallurgical properties, a 10 or 15% grade might be economic for a deposit which is able to produce a higher grade TiO2 concentrate from the ilmenite in it. It's very dependent on the mineralogy of the deposit, I suppose, is the key point here. You can't just, like a copper deposit, you can't just select a cutoff grade and say that's what's economic. It comes down to the mineralogy and the metallurgy, and it's quite complex. So it would take a bit more time to go into the specific details. And for vanadium, again, it's the same situation. It's not down to the head grade per se. It is an important factor, but it really comes down to the concentrate that you can produce out of that vanadium deposit, which is a magnetite concentrate. And one of the key factors is you cannot produce a vanadium concentrate at a higher grade than the vanadium in magnetite in your deposit. If your head grade is 0.5% vanadium, V2O5, and the vanadium in magnetite in your deposit is 1% V2O5, then you can't produce a higher grade concentrate than that. But if you have a 0.5% V2O5 head grade and the vanadium in magnetite is 3% in your deposit, well, when you concentrate it, you can produce a 3% concentrate. So that really is the key factor for the vanadium, is the vanadium in the magnetite, and that'll determine your concentrate grade and the economics, a key part of the economics of your project.
Well, Thomas, thanks so much for joining us today and giving us all the facts on titanium and vanadium.
Thanks, Tyler. Nice to be here.